Welcome to Rges Algebra 2, Lesson 16.A, or 16A. This is covering sections 4.5 and 4.6. 4.5 has to do with finding the distance between 2 points. Now, first we want to recall the Pythagorean Theorem. If you have a right triangle and you want to find the hypotenuse, C, and the sides are A and B, the Pythagorean theorem says that C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Okay. So the length of C would be the square root of A squared plus B squared. And we are going to use this as our foundation for finding the distance between 2 points. Because what if we said instead that rather than these lengths, this is point A and this is point B. To find the distance between A and B, we would use the formula for C. Okay, so we are going to expand this a little. What would A be? What would A represent? Okay. Well, A represents this distance, which is my vertical, right? And B represents it in this picture, and B represents my horizontal there. So, of course, I could have interchanged those according to the formula that we're going to write. Maybe I could have called this B and this A, and hopefully you know that there's no difference. So now A would represent the change, or the horizontal distance. Well, how would I write the horizontal distance? So I'm going to rewrite my C, this formula here for the Pythagorean theorem, and I'm going to write it in terms that make a little bit more sense when I'm thinking about the difference between 2 points. So if these are my 2 points, the distance between them is the same as C, so there's now D, and the A is the change in the X values, and the B is the change in the Y values. Okay. So hopefully that is very clear to you. So let's put all that together. What if I had the points, point 1 being -3, 2, and point 2 being 1, 5, and I asked you to find the distance between these 2 points. Find the distance is my problem. Well, D equals the change in the X values, and I always want to keep going in the same direction, okay? So I'm looking at my X values. Let's start with the first. We're going from the first point to the second point. It's not going to matter that much here, but it's a good habit to get into because we're squaring, so negatives will go away. But between -3 and 1, the distance is 4. So 4 squared. Between the Y values, between 2 and 5 is 3. So this would be 3 squared. This would be the square root of 16 plus 9, the square root of 25. And of course we're looking for distance, so we only care about the positive. And so distance equals 5. So I'm going to show you one more here. Let's say I have point 1 equals -2, -4. Point 2 equals 3, 8. I ask you to find the distance. Start with the distance formula, the square root of the change in X squared plus the change in Y squared. This you want to memorize. Okay. Now I plug it in. What is the change in X? Again, I'm always going to go from first to second. The change in X is going from -2 to +3. That would be a change of 5. 5 squared is 25. The change in y is going from -4 to 8. That's a change of 12, and 12 squared is 144. And simplifying that, we get the square root of 169, and always distance, always positive. My answer would be the distance is 13. So that should be fine for going through 1 through 10. I'm looking at this, and I want you to, ready, hopefully you're watching the tape all the way through, skip 11 through 17. And just do 1 through 10 and 18 through 20. I think that's enough for 7.5. Now we'll go on to 7.6. Now 7.6 is how do I find the midpoint of a line? Well, what is the midpoint? It is the point halfway between. Well, let me ask you how you would find it on a number line. Let's say here's 0, and this is -2, and this is +6. What would be the midpoint? Well, I would take the distance. What is the distance? 8. Right? And I would divide it by 2 to go halfway, and that would be 4. Okay. Now, if I did that, I'm going to get 4, and is 4 halfway between -2 and 6? No. Okay, so that's kind of weird, isn't it? But what it really meant, if I were doing it that way, is I'd start here and go up 4. Okay, so that is not the way to do it. The way to do it is not to find the distance between them to begin with, but instead just to do this. Add 6 plus -2. 6 plus -2 is 4, and half of 4 is 2. And so my halfway point is 2. It is 4 units in either direction. Okay? So you see the difference. You're not looking for the distance, you're adding the values. Very important idea here. And I showed you what else you could have thought, because that's a common mistake. So to find the midpoint, a point's going to have 2 values. You're going to add your x's, right? So let's, how would I write that? I'm going to write the sum of the x's divided by 2 and the sum of the y's divided by 2. So let's do a couple problems. If you have your first point, let's get this to right again, 9, 8, and your second point, -3, 4, my midpoint is going to be the sum of 9 and -3, that'd be 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3 for my x's. Sum 8 and 4 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Sum and divide by 2, or add and divide by 2. That will get you 1 through 10. Fairly straightforward, and then you have your word problems. And that's all there is for this lesson. Have a good day.